The CEO of United Healthcare, health insurance company or something like that, was shot in Manhattan. It was super sudden, out of nowhere. Assassin comes along, just pulls a trigger. It's like, wow. Now, the right is trying to make this a right versus left thing, when in reality, it's a rich thing versus people who don't have enough money to pay for health insurance thing. It's a rich versus poor thing. Jesse Waters, if you guys are familiar with him, he's like a Fox News. I think he's like the primetime host on Fox News. He had some things to say on his show about it. He did this whole segment on it. Listen to what he said on his show about this United Health CEO.
Thompson leaves behind a wife and 2 kids, but that didn't stop some people from appearing to praise his death online. Just hours after Thompson was gunned down, former Washington Post reporter.
Look, I don't revel in anyone's death. I don't want anyone to die. But I'm not going to cry when I read your obituary. This guy did some really bad things. He made society substantially worse. And I'll talk about it in a second. Just keep listening here.
Taylor Lorenz appeared to celebrate the murder of the United Healthcare CEO on social media. She shared this post.
I don't think anyone is celebrating his death. There are not many people, but they're like, maybe people will learn a lesson from this, that you're pushing us to a certain point where things are going to get real ugly. I don't want that. I don't want to have to pay $2,000 a month in health insurance.
Post about an insurance company on Blue Sky and wrote, quote, "And people wonder why we want these executives dead."
Yeah, I don't want anybody dead. I want people to get a message. Like, this can only last so long. It can only go on for so long before everybody in the country is destitute. Is that like what people are shooting for? I don't know. I don't understand why the healthcare system, the healthcare companies, and the CEOs continue to charge us out the wazoo like this. I pay thousands a month for health insurance for 3 people, me, my wife, my kid, and they cover nothing. I still pay for all of my medicine, all of my doctor's visits, all of my everything. They don't pay for anything. Why am I giving them that money? I don't have that to give them. They are ripping people off. Insurance is a scam. All insurance is a scam. If something requires insurance, it should be controlled by the government. You should pay into it through the government, and the government should pay out the claims. Because it shouldn't be based on, it shouldn't have a profit motive in it. Like, if you need car insurance, there shouldn't be a profit motive at all. And there certainly shouldn't be health insurance, ever. In my opinion, erase health insurance completely. Close United Healthcare, whatever it is. Close its doors and set up a single insurance company, one that's controlled by the government, that we all pay into, and they all pay out the claims.
Dead. Now, Lorenz did an interview with TMZ trying to walk back that statement, but you can understand why people were clearly disturbed by her initial post there on social media. Meantime,
okay, who was disturbed by this post? I mean, it seems to me she's just drawing attention to the fact that people are like literally dying right now.
The search for whoever killed the CEO is still underway. Jesse?
Anyway, yeah. Again, I don't revel in anyone's death. I don't want anyone dead. I'm not going to celebrate anyone's death. The guy had a family. We'll give him that. But I'm not going to cry when I read his obituary. Do you know how many people have died because of what he has done? Countless numbers of people. Again, we'll get to denied claims in a second. First, let's listen to this.
We've gotten to a point where healthcare is so inaccessible and unaffordable, people are justified in their frustration.
So the media's okay with murder?
Healthcare costs
Yeah, this is Jesse Waters' classic propaganda right here.
are too damn high.
Look, healthcare costs are too high. It's not about that. It is literally like, I can either have food or I can have health insurance. So I'm going to sit outside of a hospital bleeding out and dying because I couldn't afford healthcare. I'm going to go bankrupt, financial ruin, because I broke my arm. That's what we're dealing with right now. It's not like people that are listening to this, or people who are writing it more specifically, like Jesse Waters and his writers, they're sitting there thinking, well, I have costs I don't want to pay too. Like, I don't want to pay taxes. I have a lot of money that I could invest in this, whatever, this company or this real estate or whatever, if I didn't have to pay back into society like everybody else. So I don't want to pay this, but I have to. They should have to pay things they don't want to pay for too. That's not what's happening. It's a completely different situation. This isn't money that I can live without. I can't live without the money that's going to healthcare. So now I have no healthcare. That's the situation we're in. People literally dying. Let me just give you a couple of examples of what I'm talking about here. United Healthcare Community Plan. This is from the company whose CEO was just assassinated. Your insurance company, United Healthcare, has denied your claim as non-medically necessary for your emergency room visit. In order for United Healthcare to reconsider your claim, the enclosed authorization form needs to be signed and sent back to us as soon as possible. This signed authorization form will allow us to submit an appeal on your behalf to reconsider services rendered for payment. Listed below is an address to mail or fax the signed form. If we don't receive the attached forms and your health plan continues to deny, you may be responsible for the billed amount. Emergency room. Here's another. United Healthcare Community Plan received a request from Olympic Pharmacy and Healthcare Services on 11/29/2022 for an advanced Group 3 power wheelchair with features. The request was reviewed on December 2nd, 2022 by a medical director, Carter Sigmund, MD. Based on review of the information provided, the request for an advanced Group 3 power wheelchair with features was denied on December 2nd, 2022. The reason for the denial is your child's doctor asked for an advanced Group 3 power wheelchair with features. These are requested to help your child's mobility. This is because your child has cerebral palsy. This is a condition that can cause muscle weakness. We reviewed your child's health plan rules. If a wheelchair is not approved, its features cannot be approved. To approve this power wheelchair, your child's records must clearly show all of the following. A simpler wheelchair is not available to help you with your child's mobility, and a simpler wheelchair cannot meet your child's needs. Kid has cerebral palsy, needs a wheelchair. United Healthcare denied a wheelchair to a kid with cerebral palsy. How about this one? December 9th, 2022. A claimant may file a supplemental claim by submitting or identifying new and relevant evidence. New evidence is evidence not previously part of the actual record before agency adjudicators. Relevant evidence means evidence that tends to prove or disprove a matter at issue. Oh my God, yes, I know. Just get to the point. We acknowledge receipt of your private medical records and lay statements intending to link your current disability to a disease, event, or injury from your military service. Your service treatment records do not contain complaints, treatment, or diagnosis for this condition. It's anxiety and or depression. So dude is in the military, presumably, gets anxiety or depression from it, but didn't report it when he was in the military, I guess, and now the insurance isn't going to pay for it because there's no paper trail to show a direct connection between his military service and depression or anxiety because he didn't report it at that moment. You've got to be kidding me with this. Your service treatment records don't contain complaints, treatment, or diagnosis for this condition. The evidence does not show an event, disease, or injury in service. We acknowledge your submission of current evidence for your claimed condition of anxiety and depression. Looking at the totality of your claim, it's noted that your service treatment records are silent for any complaints of any mental health condition. However, your evaluation report and counseling were outstanding with recommendations for awards and promotions. Your service treatment records do not contain complaints, blah, blah, blah. Why did they repeat this like 3 different times? While some of the evidence submitted may not be discussed, all evidence was discussed, and only the most significant or pertinent evidence is being discussed to include, but not limited to, service treatment records and VAMC treatment records. That is insane. This dude is having his claim denied to pay for presumably therapy and medicine, maybe, for depression and anxiety. Maybe PTSD induced. Who knows? They certainly don't know because they won't approve it. They won't investigate it. They won't move forward with it. Denying this claim for depression and anxiety. Now, that's going to make his depression and anxiety way better, isn't it? What is wrong with these people? You know that UHC, United Healthcare Company, or whatever the hell it's called? Hang on, let me just double check this before I say it. This is from dissentmagazine.org. Take it or leave it, trustworthiness-wise. The statistics include United Healthcare having the highest denial rate, 32% in 2023, of any U.S. insurance company. 32% denial rate. And who's responsible for telling people that they need to raise the denial rate? Our good buddy Brian Thompson, or whatever the his name is. I'm sorry he died. I don't want anybody dead. Really. But I'm not going to sit here and cry at the obituary. I'm just not. You know whose obituary I will cry over? The kid with cerebral palsy who couldn't have a wheelchair because he wouldn't let him have it. Or how about this one? This is a letter from a doctor to the insurance company. Dear buttheads at the insurance company, I can't believe it's come to this. I have to take time away from my patients to inform you that you are idiots. This whole experience makes me want to vomit. But of course, I wouldn't dare throw up without the approval of my insurance company. Which brings me to my point. Apparently, you've decided that a child receiving chemotherapy has no reason to be nauseated. I didn't think I was unnecessarily writing prescriptions for antiemetics, which is anti-vomiting medicine, I believe. For blank, obviously you would know better about the side effects of chemotherapy than me, my peers, and the entire scientific community, going all the way back to Dr. Sidney Farber. I suppose my alternative to Zofran and scopolamine is to let blank know that the nausea is all in his head. However, I don't imagine you would cover any psychology consultation either. So I'll just tell blank to stop throwing up. Thank you for that simple solution. You have saved your greedy, blood-sucking corporation shareholders a great deal of money, I'm sure. Of course, that would be the bottom line. Feel free to contact me if you need further information about how much you guys suck. Sincerely, blank. United Healthcare Community, UHC. Brian Thompson was running it. Brian Thompson, this guy. I'm crying over the obituary of that kid who had cancer and couldn't get the medicine he needed to keep from vomiting. That's the obituary I'm crying over. Anyway, back to Jesse Waters.
We've gotten to a point where healthcare is so inaccessible and unaffordable, people are justified in their frustration.
So the media's okay with murder?
Just framing it like that tells me that Jesse Waters has no idea what people are dealing with. Just completely outside of reality. He's in a little bubble where he's never had to worry about paying for anything ever. And when I say worry about, I mean like you're buying loaves of bread because you can't afford anything else. You're just buying bread and butter and ramen noodles, and you're just eating those, eating those because you don't have the money for anything else. It's going to the pharmacy to pay for your medicine. He is never worried about that.
Healthcare costs are too high.
And he's blaming like everybody else for being unhappy with this. Again, I'm not in favor of dying, of anyone dying, anybody being killed, none of that. I'm not in favor of it. I just would like a little bit more like sympathy, compassion, understanding, just like this much more from Jesse Waters. And you know, on that note, the NYPD came up with a couple of pictures that they want everybody to look out for. See if we can find this assassin. All right, so we know apparently that this is the assassin right here. This is a picture of him from when he shot the gun, right? This is a picture released by the NYPD. And they said that this is the same guy. These are the same people. And what's more, you know what else they said? NYPD says this is from the same event, the same day, and he's wearing the exact same clothing in these two pictures. That is what the NYPD said. But if you notice here, this jacket does not have pockets on the front. This one does. This backpack has black straps. This one has white. Are they ruining some poor guy's life right now? I appreciate, though, what New Yorkers are doing right now. Of course, this happened in New York City. So New Yorkers held a contest, a shooter look-alike contest. This is on New York Post. Naturally, it's going to be like far-right propaganda. Unfortunately, that's just what the New York Post is nowadays. But just listen to this article here. New Yorkers mockingly celebrated the assassination of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson in Washington Square Park with a truly tasteless shooter lookalike contest as the frantic manhunt for the brazen killer entered its fourth day. Well, I don't know that they don't have to be celebrating it to make a point that these pictures do not look like the same person at all. I mean, is that not clear as day? How can they possibly make this mistake? They're not even like the same colors that he's wearing. And again, these aren't from different days. This is supposed to be the same outfit, the same everything. 8 contestants donning hooded outerwear and face masks were surrounded Friday by dozens of onlookers whose cheers amounted to votes in the nose-thumbing stunt. The winner, whose green jacket and face covering made him a dead ringer for the cold-blooded assassin, said he headed toward the park after hearing about the contest that morning. I got no looks until I got over here, and now everyone wants a picture with me, he told the Post. He's the one onlooker remarked as he was introduced as contestant number 6. I'm sorry, man. I'm having trouble having any sympathy for Brian Thompson or his family after what he has done to materially make society worse. And that's not even all I've got for you. Check this out. The new CEO of UHC, or whatever it is, had some comments to lay down. The CEO of United Health Group, Andrew Whitty, UHG, I guess, Andrew Whitty, told employees he would increase security, including perimeter protection, at the company's sites following the killing of one of their colleagues, CEO of the company's health insurance branch, Brian Thompson. There you go. So I guess it's a broader company. In comments shared with The Guardian, Whitty said the company would make permanent changes that would make campuses less welcoming, but they were necessary in the country's current climate. You're telling me you're going to put more money into security guards? You're going to pay for cameras on site instead of pay for the fucking wheelchairs? Is that what you're telling me right now? You're telling me you want to continue to make people's lives harder and put that money that you are taking from sick children and give it to some security guards so that you can't be like attacked for taking the money from sick kids? Bro, we guard against the pressures that exist for unsafe or unnecessary care to be delivered in a way that makes the whole system too complex and ultimately unsustainable. He guards against. So he's saying he's providing a public service. You should be thanking him. He guards against the pressures in society that make, what does it make it unsafe? He's protecting you from unsafe medical procedures by denying your claim for a wheelchair. I've never been more proud of what this company and our colleagues do on behalf of the people in this country. I urge you to tune out the negative messaging you hear on social media, Whitty said. Now, I have a question for you. Does he really believe that he's benefiting society right now? Is this real? Or is he just like pretending? Is this him just trying to cope with the fact that he is a monster and everybody in the country knows it? Or is he really delusional in there? Whitty made the comments in the face of online vitriol in response to the killing of Thompson, a 50-year-old CEO of United Healthcare who's survived by 2 sons and his wife, Paulette. Thompson was killed early Wednesday morning in Midtown Manhattan, just outside the site of the company's annual investor meeting, by an unknown assailant who shot the executive at least twice and then fled on an e-bike. Police are still searching for the suspect, released photos and information about items found at the scene, so on and so forth. Shell casings the shell casings had words scrawled on them: deny, depose, defend. The motive for the killing is unknown. Well, I mean, I think that kind of spells it out pretty clearly: deny, depose, defend. I believe that's the title of a book about health insurance companies and how they keep from paying out. They deny claims, they drag things out and try to make you appeal over and over and over again so that you don't want to even bother going to a hospital when you absolutely need to. It's a known legal strategy that they're using that's like discussed in legal circles a lot. And the end result is lots and lots of death. In 2008, Obama was talking about creating Obamacare. And maybe it was 2012. I don't know when he did it. Anyway, he's talking about creating Obamacare, which we have now, which sucks. I mean, it's better than what we did have, which was nothing. But it was, Obamacare, it was a plan written by the Heritage Foundation, the same people that wrote Project 2025. Obamacare was. So not top tier. It was a half measure that Obama put in to try to meet Republicans halfway. And we saw how that went, right? When Obama was pushing for Obamacare, it was either John McCain or Romney. I don't remember which one was talking about it, but they said they're going to... No, it was Paul Ryan, I think. He was the Speaker of the House. He said there are going to be death panels. If Obama is instituted, there are going to be death panels where people have to sit there and decide who gets to die because they don't get care. That is literally happening now. It has been happening the entire time. In a single-payer system, which again is a half measure to what it should be, in a single-payer system, he says in a single-payer system, there would be death panels. There are death panels now. We got to do something about this, man. We've got to lobby the government. We've got to write our congressmen, call people, whatever it takes, because this is nuts. Absolutely nuts what we're dealing with right now. People literally dying outside the emergency room because they're not paying for anything. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do the other CEOs really believe that they're doing good in the world? Do they really believe that? Tell me what you think. Apparently they identified the guy as Luigi, I guess is his name. He has a manifesto that I kind of want to glance through for a second. Apparently he's followed like Elon Musk and Joe Rogan and some other kind of right-wing characters, but I can't really tell if he's like right-wing or left-wing, though the right has tried desperately to turn it into a left-right thing. So take a look here. This is part of his manifesto. To the feds, I'll keep this short because I do respect what you do for our country. To save you a lengthy investigation, I state plainly that I wasn't working with anyone. This is fairly trivial. Some elementary social engineering, basic CAD, a lot of patience. CAD? Like AutoCAD? Isn't that like the 3D modeling software? That's weird. The spiral notebook, if present, has some straggling notes and to-do lists that illuminate the gist of it. My tech is pretty locked down because I work in engineering, so probably not much info there. I do apologize for any strife of traumas, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is the indecipherable largest company in the U.S. by market cap, behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It's grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? No, the reality is these indecipherable have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space and frankly don't pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed, Rosenthal or more, decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It's not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I'm the first to face it with such brutal honesty. His arguments sound absolutely on point. He's absolutely correct about everything, except for one thing. In addition to all of this, he apparently left an Amazon review on Ted Kaczynski's biography, I guess. He's like the Unabomber, I think. Yeah, Ted Kaczynski, he died in ADX Florence Supermax forever ago. ADX Florence Supermax is like a horrific place, and nobody deserves to go there. Nobody. It has, 9/11 terrorists and other people like that. You will never have human contact ever again for the rest of your life. Not with guards, not with fellow inmates. They keep you completely separate forever. That might be where this guy is going. You don't have a window in your cell. You have a little, like a 2-inch slit up the wall that lets kind of fresh air in, I guess. You will never be outside again if you're an ADX Florence Supermax. You walk out of your cell, one prisoner at a time, and you stand in a little area that has like a starlight thing. What do you call it? Like a glass ceiling that you can see out of, and that's it. For like an hour a day. If you don't cooperate with them, their version of solitary, I mean, the whole thing is solitary. So to punish prisoners, they take you to a room and strap you to a table and keep you strapped to the table for days. You don't get up to use the bathroom. You just go right there and they hose you off. ADX Florence Supermax is a horrific place that I believe violates human rights to a horrific degree. And I don't want anybody going there. But the point is that Ted Kaczynski was there, and he died there not too long ago. This guy reviewed Ted Kaczynski's book and said that he was on point with everything, which tells you the guy's not all there mentally. Like, Kaczynski was absolutely nuts. And the things that this guy did were unhinged and unacceptable. I can agree with his complaints about society without justifying what he did. This is on Newsweek. The suspect in the United Healthcare CEO shooting called the Unabomber an extreme political revolutionary, according to a Goodreads review he left on Ted Kaczynski's manifesto. New York officials identified 26-year-old Luigi Mangione as a person of interest Monday, 5 days after the United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was fatally shot in front of a Hilton hotel in Midtown Manhattan last Wednesday. Mangione was detained at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. A Goodreads profile that belongs to Mangione showed he'd reviewed Kaczynski's notorious Industrial Society and its Future manifesto in January. Yeah, Kaczynski, the Unabomber, his whole motivation was basically technology is going too far and we need to step backward. It's destroying the environment. He was an environmentalist. He was also like a mathematician, I think, like a professor at a college or something. Kaczynski was. Kaczynski, often referred to as a Unabomber, attacked academics, businessmen, and random civilians with homemade bombs for nearly 20 years, with the goal of triggering the collapse of the modern social order. Kaczynski justified his actions in a 35,000-word manifesto, which was published jointly by the New York Times and the Washington Post in 1995, amid the threat of continuing violence. Here's a quote. "It's easy to quickly and thoughtlessly write this off as a manifesto of a lunatic in order to avoid facing some of the uncomfortable problems it identifies." This is Luigi Mangione reviewing the Unabomber's manifesto. Wow. But it's simply impossible to ignore how prescient many of his predictions about modern society turned out, Mangione wrote on Goodreads. He was a violent individual, rightfully imprisoned, who maimed innocent people. While these actions tend to be characterized as those of a crazy Luddite, however, they are more accurately seen as those of an extreme political revolutionary. Personal information that has emerged about Mangione after he was identified Monday suggests similarities between his biography and Kaczynski's. The Unabomber had scored 167 on an IQ test. Wow, as a boy, and was accepted by Harvard at the age of 16. That is nuts. He went on to attend graduate school at the University of Michigan before becoming an assistant professor at the University of California, Berkeley, when he was 25. That's crazy. So the bottom line here is that this guy was correct about his arguments, but incorrect about his reasons for doing what he did and his approach to solve the problems. He basically said in another part, maybe in a different part of his manifesto, he said that people don't care about protest anymore, and it's time for violent action. There's no other fix for this. We can't lobby to change it. We can't work inside the government to fix it. We can't protest because nobody cares. The only thing left to us is violence. That was his reasoning. I completely disagree. I don't believe that violence is justified. I don't want to live in a society where violence is justified, political violence, under any circumstances. Let me put it this way. Any political environment that allows violence for political reasons will be worse than any other political situation, because it like political violence, widespread, rampant political violence, and the acceptance of it leads us to an authoritarian dystopia. It's like it leads us to the collapse of society when that's acceptable. If we accept what this guy did, that means that we now have to accept it when Donald Trump supporters become violent, because political violence is a solution to the problem. I don't accept political violence when he does it. I don't accept it when Trump supporters do it. I don't accept it. We might have insanely high healthcare rates, but I would rather have insanely high healthcare rates than live in an environment where political violence is accepted. Anyway, tell me what you think about it in the comments.